A, B, C, D, E, F, M.
EFM. Yeah, we continue our alphabetical tour of ski brands,
Okay.
having already discussed Fischer. We need to talk about Madshus. Madshus, unlike Fischer, which is mostly carried through from almost entirely carried through from last year, Madshus is where we see the biggest change by miles in the industry. There's a whole new ski from Madshus. This will take a little explanation. The new construction from Madshus has been in the works for a little while. When Madshus first introduced this method of construction, it was 1992, 93.
This method?
It's the same method of construction. It's the same factory. They're using more or less similar materials, and the construction methodology is the same. The same presses, the same machines, adapted to a new construction. But the method has evolved a little bit over time with some materials interchanged. This is the first major reworking to modernize the level of materials. And this is a project that has really been driven by their development team. Svein Ivar Moen is the testing guy. He was Olainer Bjorndal's wax tech for 15 years or something, worked with the company and one of the best athletes in the world, and really knows the product and has for many, many years. So he's an incredible resource for the company, and now he's inside the company and has driven this product development. He actually came in and really helped with the 3.0 development as well. He's been there for quite a while and has been largely responsible for a lot of the direction of development. He works very closely with Connor Green, who we've interviewed in the past. We know him. He was a skier at Harvard, came from Rochester area in New York, skied for Jason Hettenbaugh, I guess, right? So Connor's a Eastern boy and lives in Norway now and works at Madshus and is the engineer. Connor's really the guy who knows the inside of the ski and has developed it, testing materials all along the way. Many of the materials that have been used and the methods that have been used to build the skis have been the same for a really long time. When Madshus first introduced that construction method in 92, they introduced sort of a three-dimensional ski, and there were pretty good reasons for it at the time, at least as they were explained to us when we first visited. It gave them better control of the torsion of the ski, and they were able to lighten the ski and define the thickness profile at the high point of the ski. And so they had good reasons to do it. In time, the three-dimensional aspect of the Madshus skis has kind of moved into the marketing and cosmetic realm much more than it has the engineering realm, and it's become more of a branding thing. And it looks less cool than it used to, and it doesn't serve any particular purpose, and in fact, it detracts in ways from the function of the ski. So the new skis, which Connor promised from the outset, are flat. They're, at this point in time, with modern materials, there's no reason for the skis to be three-dimensional in order to achieve what they need to achieve. They set out to develop these skis without feeling like they had to reinvent the performance profile of the skis. They're really happy with the 3.0 skis. The 3.0 skate skis in particular represented a performance benchmark that they wanted to meet. They didn't want to leave it in the dust. However, they wanted the skis to be decidedly stronger, and they felt that they could make them much lighter. The very first sort of lightweight prototypes that I saw in Connor's office, totally non-functional skis, just brake test skis, but to see what could be made, were astonishingly lightweight. And when we talked, it was clear that given enough time and money, they could make a very, very light ski that was plenty strong enough and very functional. As always, there are production limitations. All of these factories need to be able to economically produce a ski in a certain amount of time. It can't take you all day to make one pair of skis. You got to be able to produce them. It's slower than people think. And it's a big objective to make an object that can actually be sold in a way that makes the company money, makes the distributor money. There's a whole economy to support. We need jobs too. So yeah, these skis need to be made in a certain way. And many of the things that make the ski reproducible and allow for tolerance in the manufacturing process make the ski a little heavier. And in time, this ski has gone from the sort of first functional prototypes we saw were like close to 100 grams per ski lighter. In the end, this thing ends up being roughly 40 grams lighter than last year's version. It's a little longer. It also has a bit of an evolved thickness profile and stiffness profile. So the whole performance profile of the ski is a little different. The 3.0 skis had already evolved beyond the Redline 1.0 and 2.0 models. 2.0 and 3.0 were geometrically the same. This one doesn't have a number on it. It's just Redline, and it's quite different. The other major change is it's got a reinforced edge. This is one thing they definitely wanted to address. I don't know if it's going to be visible on the camera, but the edge steps out about 0.5 millimeter and has some quite hard material backing up the base at the edge. The way the top sheet meets the base has been revised to make the whole thing quite a lot tougher. And they've been running this construction for quite a while. You and I skied it in its earliest prototype form last May. I think Svein Ivar said we were the first people from outside the company to ski that ski. That was kind of cool. Amy didn't love it. It was a 192 and it was terrible conditions. I got really excited because the ski feels like a better object. One of the things that they've done with this ski is to, as I understand it from talking to Connor, really eliminate voids in the construction. So as an object, the ski is really solid, and that's where a lot of the strength gains come from. It makes me question, because this is a foam core ski, closed cell foam, it makes me question in a way some of the hollow cores of other skis, but they all seem to work pretty well anyway. They've gotten rid of voids in this ski. As an object, it feels more settled to me on the snow. One of the concerns I have about a lighter ski is it being too twitchy. The resonant frequency gets too high and the ski gets nervous. And that's definitely not the feeling I have on this. The ski feels more settled on the snow. But I think the bigger changes to the performance profile are in the material, the stiffness profile. It definitely has a longer bending radius up front and relies less on additional carbon reinforcement to achieve the material stiffness required. I think I might be a little too much of a fan of the process here to speak to the performance of the ski, so I'm going to ask you to talk about what you think about the performance.
So, yeah, we were on them last May, which wasn't the best conditions to try them out. And really, we just tried them again then recently.
It took all year to get them. We tried to get early production prototypes, offered to go to Norway. We're told they would send them. It's a little bit of chaos inside the company right now. And it's, but they arrived in time for Lake Placid. Many thanks to Tone-san, who organized a shipment for us. We got them ground, we took them up to Lake Placid. They immediately went into races.
Yeah, and they ski very differently, in my opinion, compared to the 3.0. So probably, yeah, the biggest change I see is they feel more like they have an edge, where these felt sometimes less like that. And then I guess you call it planted. Yeah, I think they feel a little more heading towards like a Fisher feel a little bit, especially the F3, which kind of sits down. Yeah, our initial impressions were quite good. So
yeah, very positive. I'm a big fan of the ski. I think it feels like the amount of directional stability I want. It's improved, but it doesn't change the skiability for me. Okay. I like the way it feels underfoot. Interesting to note that the skis that we received, which are representative of recent production, do have a lower resting camber than we're accustomed to. This is an F2. Last year we were seeing resting cambers, just looking base to base, at about sometimes up to 25 millimeters, sometimes more like 23 millimeters. In the company, they measure that resting camber under the weight of the ski. So just sitting down, that can change it by a couple millimeters, but they were saying 20 to 21, 22 sometimes for resting camber on an F2, whereas this one is more in the 17 to 18 millimeter range, which is a lot more similar to some of the other brands that we're accustomed to. When you reduce the resting camber, you take some of the springy feeling out of the small material at the ends, That might be required in this ski because you have stiff or small material, and leaving too much spring out there could put too much tension and load into that material. They're still working on deciding exactly what the camber should be. This was always going to be a process. Once they figured out how to build the ski in production, then they need to start working with cambers, and that's the job of the race department. These skis have been on the World Cup since about mid-season. They were not immediately adopted, and they have been adopted more and more as time has gone on. One of the reasons for that is that this base material that they use, they call it the 7 base, is a base material that gets better with waxing. When they tested these bases originally, Svein Ivar and Connor took a bunch of base materials down to New Zealand one summer, a number of years back. They had some bases that were so fast right out of the box. They were incredible right away, almost without any waxing at all, but they slowed down very quickly, and they felt like the life of that base would only be about 2 races before they would need to be reground. This base got faster and faster and faster as it was used, and it kind of comes into its own after some repetitions on the wax bench, and in time the skis get faster. I think it takes a little longer for Madshus material to earn its way into the fleet. We found this way back in 2011 when I took some new classic skis for Noah Oslo World Champs, and like the first day we tested them, they were kind of doggy, and I was really disappointed. But by the end of the week, he was racing on them. They were clearly faster than anything in the fleet. So it is an interesting thing about the Madshus skis, and we have seen these skis show up more and more frequently on World Cup skiers as time has passed. So there are probably more questions about this whole thing. One thing to note is that we have this mounted up with a SkateX binding. We've already produced a bunch of content about SkateX. This is compatible with the standard accelerator binding. With the SkateX binding, the ski comes in at 562 grams. With the accelerator binding, the old 3.0 comes in at 660 grams. The SkateX binding measures about 12 grams lighter than the accelerator binding. This is right in the category with the other light skis on the market, led probably by the S-Lab ski, which I think has been the lightest for a while, but the new Helium as well. It's within grams, and with this binding on it, it's maybe a few grams lighter than the others. What we don't have is a brand new classic ski that is going to feature the same upgrades in construction that the skate ski has. So it'll have that flat profile, it'll have modernized material sets, have the voids largely removed, be a higher quality object, have the reinforced edge. All of the stuff that we're talking about with the skate ski is there in the classic ski. We just don't have any yet. The classic ski development process is a long process because it's so dependent on dialing the camber and figuring out how to make the ski really, really work. What's worth noting is that while we haven't skied on the new ski, we have skied on the new geometry or thickness profile. They have been working already on developing the stiffness profile of the ski for several years. This is a race department prototype ski that has the new thickness profile and geometry, and we've been skiing on these all season, and in fact had some test ones last season. A version of this was actually on the snow as early as the last Olympics. But this was what was being used on the World Cup all year, and it really started to hit the World Cup, not this last season, but the previous. No, Ben Ogden was on this new prototype geometry in Oberstdorf when he was 6th place in that classic race and had awesome skis. And he was fired up. He texted me from there. He's like, new skis are amazing. This year, he continues to feel, especially in Klister, that Madshus has something really special going on the classic side of things. But that's all in this prototype construction. And the last I knew, they were still working on bringing that performance profile into the new skis. Those guys tend to work really deep into the spring. They have a lot of snow in Shushin and then up at Sonyafjell, and they'll continue to work at refining those cambers for a summer production. But it is worth noting that it's quite a different ski from the previous. If we look again, just as an illustration, there's your sort of bending radius under stress on this new prototype ski. And this is a standard Redline 3.0. They have been evolutionarily moving away from their much softer, thin material set that characterized early Redlines. So we have to find out. We don't know yet about the classic skis. But we skied on these. Did you ski on these this year? Maybe not, because you were always testing other stuff.
Yeah, I was always testing.
I skied on these a bunch. Really like them last year and this year.
Should be a fun, totally different year for Madshus next year.
Big change, and I think a big step forward in material quality, longevity, if nothing else. The skis are really nice to work on. Thermal stability is enhanced because the shape of the ski is more even. Yeah, I think they're going to be a hit.